Well, this is a little bit different. Media Mementos videos normally take about 4 months in the time between first recording them and then releasing them to the public. Now though, we're gonna be doing this video in 2 days. That's for 2 reasons. For one, we kinda have to make a bunch of shorter videos until our 9K special next week, so there's that to look forward to. But also because Orel has been booming on our channel lately. Over the last week or so, every video we've done on the show has been getting at least 700 views a day. So why not strike while the iron is hot? Today, we'll be doing a little bit of a simpler video explaining why we've been covering the show so much. It's kinda been weird. I got introduced to the show in September of last year, and now bam, it's a mainstay on the channel. And spoiler alert, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. The reason we keep covering it here on the channel is because, honestly, I just admire the show so much. First of all, I really appreciate that it's not one of those adult shows, if you get my meaning. You know, those shows like Tripping the Rift, or King Star King, Mr. Pickles, High School USA, or even Alan Gregory, where the whole joke is, haha, everything is super raunchy and uncomfortable, woo, it's funny! Moral Orel was like that in the earlier episodes, but it quickly grew out of it. Even so, more often than not, when it had those concepts, it did them at least better than its competition. Take, for example, the episode Charity. Now, in any other adult show, especially in ones that have less capable production staffs, this whole thing would just be an excuse to have a kid get high on crack, and then that's the joke. That's the entire joke they tell. But here, they use that to tell their own story and make their own jokes using the whole kid getting addicted to crack thing as a springboard for their writing. Here we got Orel smoking crack because he thinks it's the right thing to do, and just giving money to people is basically a handout, and no one wants that. That's not right. We got Orel acting all crazy and weird and basically exactly the opposite of the way he's supposed to be. We have Clay getting mad at Orel not for getting addicted to crack, but because he's talking in Ebonics. Granted, we still have weaker episodes like God's Chef, which we covered last time, or the other episode that kinda is in the same vein, Waste, where it's, yeah, basically exactly like those shows, but they're not bad. At least they're nowhere near as bad as it would be in the hands of, say, the Mr. Pickles crew. I still remember that show. Man, that was so boring. But as time went on, the show ended up maturing. I'm not saying that it got better with its gross out humor, I'm just saying that the gross out humor wasn't really the focus at all. Instead of being your typical Davy and Goliath parody that would basically be something you'd find on a super long Robot Chicken sketch, the show really found its footing in the second season. We had a lot of standout funny episodes like Turn the Other Cheek or God's Image, but then we also started getting a lot more serious episodes too. This was a very, very big risk. Sometimes comedy show audiences don't like it when their show takes a serious turn. That's one of the reasons why Seinfeld never really had a serious moment. They knew what they wanted to be, and that was just a comedy show through and through. And unless you're a show like Roseanne, where you started having all these serious themes right from the beginning, introducing this stuff would be, well, like I said, a very big risk. Luckily for Orel, it really paid off. The people behind it knew what to do at just the right times. For one, as soon as the second season started, it didn't just become all dark and doom and gloom. They more eased you into the story. We had the typical haha funny episodes like Turn the Other Cheek, but then we got some episodes that were kind of a mix between humor and story. The biggest examples I can think of are Be Fruitful and Multiply and The Lord's Prayer. The first one of those two especially caught me off guard, given the fact that Orel is barely in the episode at all. If anything, it's about Stephanie and Reverend Putty. So it wasn't just the main cast that got this serious treatment, it was the entire town. And then of course, we got Nature, where everything changed. Moral Orel from this point on was barely a comedy show at all. Now it was fully committed to being a dark slice-of-life sad tale about a lot of lost individuals who think that they've already found righteousness. And then of course Orel, who thought that he was in the greatest place on earth, slowly realizing that Moralton, despite its religious nature, is basically hell. And it's all being led by one of the worst people there, Clay Puppington, his very own father. Now, I think that the show definitely knew that this is where it wanted to end up. They set a lot of hints up early on, going as far back as maturity. Because of that, the show offers a lot of potential for analytical content. It's not like you're reading too deep into it if you know for a fact that every single little piece of the story was planned. So when I make videos saying Shapey and Block are troubled individuals that were eventually gonna shape up and fly right, shape up, get it? It's in there, yeah. I know I'm not entering fanfiction territory here. For one, the creator confirmed it, and second, in the lost episode Abstinence, we actually get to see this happen. If you go to the very end, we see a juxtaposition of the scene in the episode where Shapey and Block were running around and screaming, but now they're dressed as angels and they're singing calmly and peacefully, like well-behaved, respectful young boys. Or how, at first, we see Clay and Blaberta as this nice, typical Christian conservative happy couple, but then again, starting in maturity, we see some cracks in their relationship, and then we go on to find that they absolutely despise each other. And all this information isn't directly gathered from just exposition or the stuff that happens in the story. A lot of people have their own interpretations of what happens in the show because of things in the background. Take, for example, Shapey and Block living in the storage room where all these dangerous equipment pieces are kept. Some people say it's purely because of neglect. Other people say it's because Blaberta actually wants to hurt Shapey and then later Block. There's no real confirmation of this, and we'll never get any because part of the fun of Moral Orel is, truth be told, some things are never gonna have answers. Have you ever heard of this movie called Rashomon? If you haven't, then I highly suggest you check it out. I saw it in college and wow, it blew my mind. But basically the whole point of the film is there was a murder that happened, and everybody gives their own account of what happened. However, everybody's really biased, and you can't really tell who to trust. So in the end, it's up to the audience to decide which idea is the most credible out of everything presented. Moral Orel does this more than any other show I've seen. And if you've seen any video here on this channel, you'll know that I absolutely love shows that piece things out in the story and have a satisfying conclusion, but still leave a lot of things up to you, the audience, to decide. Take a look at Character Quest. That's all we've been doing there. We take characters like the Titan Dweevil, Leon Kuwata, Mitsuki, Bowler Hat Guy, even Quirrell from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and we explain how we here at Media Mementos filled in those blanks. That, and also just connecting the dots to things that are going on in their life and that make up their personality, that weren't outright explained in the media they came from. And why else do you think we have so many character quests on Moral Orel? And there's definitely more coming. Basically, every prominent character in the show has that. From the main characters like Clay, Blaberta, Orel, Shapey, and Block, to even the townspeople like Reverend Putty, or Florence, who gets like, what, 3 appearances? And even during Season 3, where it's really serious and plot-heavy, it still manages to be funny whenever it tells jokes. It just goes to show you that even though Moral Orel takes a big tonal shift halfway through the show, it doesn't lose touch with its roots, and it most certainly doesn't lose touch with the writer's talent. Also, this is just a little note, but I gotta say, I really like how the show dealt with its cancellation. It didn't abruptly stop, and it didn't hold the rest of its storylines ransom for another season. It wrapped all the stories up as best as it possibly could within the time limit, and then went out gracefully. You could tell it went out gracefully because of the revival before Orel. Now, I seriously doubt this was ever supposed to be a recurring series. I think it was just supposed to be a revival special. But they handled this beautifully. They brought everything back that made all eras of the show good. You know, the story, the humor, the characters, everything people loved. And it wasn't one of those reboots that went, hey, remember this from Moral Orel? Remember when Clay did this and Reverend Putty did that? Oh, good times, good times. I hate those reboots. The reason I care about that so much is because another one of my favorite adult shows, Drawn Together, had its own revival that basically amounted to an hour-long temper tantrum, but we'll get to that when we get 10,000 subscribers, okay? So that's why we're gonna keep covering Moral Orel here on the channel. It's got so much opportunity, it's so well written, and honestly, it needs a lot more publicity. Both of us here at Media Mementos started looking at Moral Orel content, and barely any of it was recent. The only real recent things we could find were re-uploads of the show. That wouldn't do at all. This thing needed to be dissected, and who better to do it than us? I mean, maybe there's better people, but still we decided to do it anyways, and now, here we are. I love this show to pieces. I really do. It's inspired me tremendously. I've always loved things that seem kind of funny and happy on the surface, but then when you delve into it, it gets darker and grittier. Why else do you think I loved Meet the Feebles? For more information, please check out our video on that. But anyways, back to Moral Orel. In fact, I've gotten so inspired actually that I've decided that I kind of want to write some stories of my own that are like it. Not Moral Orel fanfiction or things that rip it off, of course, no, but something with a similar tone, where it starts off kind of fun and adventurous, but then yeah, it kind of delves into some darker subjects. Maybe it'll happen, who knows? If you guys are interested, please let me know. But I've got Orel to thank for that. And a lot of people in the industry could really learn from the show. It doesn't do the typical adult cartoon thing where it's ew, gross, ugh, provocative. And it could have so easily done that. Not only has the formula been shown to bring some, albeit short-term success, but still success nonetheless, but also it was primed up for it. It's a show about Christians that don't follow their own doctrine. It makes fun of David and Goliath with its animation style. It could have been just one of those and nothing more. But the creators wouldn't let that happen. They decided to stick to their guns and make the show the way they wanted to, even though Adult Swim objected a lot of the time and eventually got it canceled for that same reason. The show decided to be itself, and now because of it, we have a giant supply of Moral Orel content just waiting to come out. And you better believe me, it will come out. In fact, let me tell you what exactly is going to come out. We're going to review every single episode that we haven't already reviewed. We're going to explain why Season 1 is one of the most important things you could watch in your first time viewing of the show. We're going to have character quests on Orel, Stop Frame, Censored All, Stephanie, Reverend Putty, Doey, and Florence. We're going to talk about the Moral Orel content we never got. We're going to adapt the script Narcissism that never got made into an episode. And also the history of the show, both in terms of my experience with discovering it and also how the show got made. And hey, someday our dream is to have an interview with someone that worked on the show, and it could happen. It's a far out dream, but crazier things have happened. So both because of its content and the fact that I just love this thing to pieces, Moral Orel isn't going anywhere. And for those of you who don't get it, and those of you who don't like the content we make on the show, don't worry. It's not going to be the only thing we make, but just know that it is going to be a reoccurring thing. And in case you can't tell by that giant list of content, we are not running out of ideas anytime soon. Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? What do you think of Moral Orel? And do you want to see the stories that I may end up writing someday? Also, there's another big question I gotta ask you guys. Of all those videos we listed, aside from the narcissism one, because that's gonna take a very long time, which one do you want to see next? Do you want to see us cover an episode? Do you want to see the Season 1 video or a character quest? Comment below and let me know, because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Real quick, I'd like to thank our Patreon executive producers, Reziel, Leaf Razor, Azarius, Whoopdoo, Michaela Bellamy, MD the Dude, and Blackjack. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then consider donating to our Patreon, which has a link in the description below. It's also time for Comment of the Day. Today's Comment of the Day goes to Kylie Marcus. This is my favorite channel on YouTube. Oh my gosh, keep it up. I just want to say that makes us feel really special here. We really appreciate that kind of support. You're gonna have to take my word for it that Billy does, though, because I'm the only one speaking here. But yes, it's true. We absolutely love those kinds of comments. To be fair, though, who wouldn't like seeing that kind of stuff? But we also have an honorable mention that we'd like to share. This one I actually completely forgot to mention in the video because it's a very nice connection here. So I'm really glad that SpongeBob plushie stuff, exclamation point, just so happened to remind us. Irony that in Geniuses, Putty wears a God Chef apron. Yes, I completely forgot to mention that, but yes, that's a very nice little Easter egg there, and it just so happens to connect my two least favorite episodes. Just a little something fun. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you guys next time!